Good morning. We are off to a flying start this morning and we are going to chop down this last bed of field beans. So we had 4 beds of field beans. It was this one, the 2 further up, so those 2, and then there's one round the corner where we're going to be putting the alliums. But as you can see, these are about to flower, and we chopped the other ones down before they got to flower, but these ones are going. So we're going to chop these down today, and we're using a kind of chop and drop method. So the root balls is where they're fixing the nitrogen, and we're just leaving them on top. So on this bed, they've almost completely disappeared. That was about 2 weeks ago we did that. And the bed up here was the first one we did that with, and they're pretty much completely gone. Traditionally, you would dig in field beans, but that's not something we do. So we've just been kind of leaving them on the surface and planting through. And it's worked a treat. As you can see, kind of that's the stages of them. And we're going to chop this one down today. It was around this time that we started having our trouble with my gimbal. It did a lot of this all day, so I apologise. I just apologise. But like I say, we are growing the field beans this year mainly as a green manure because their roots are really deep, they really improve the soil structure and they fix nitrogen for the next crop. And we're putting our brassicas in these beds and they love a bit of nitrogen, so that should be all good. But we're going to leave a patch right in the centre of this bed and let them go to pod. They are just broad beans, but they just produce a smaller bean than the broad bean. But I was reading a study the other day that was comparing broad beans to field beans, because field beans are really popular in like North Africa and that sort of area. They're used all the time, dried and fresh. And this study was kind of compared the two, and not only are the field beans so much tougher, easier to grow, they actually had twice the yield of the broad beans because the beans are much smaller, but each plant was producing 3 times as many pods as the broad beans. So overall it kind of evened up and ended up with them being, twice as productive. So that's a pretty good thing. And what I would say about them is that they've grown brilliantly. They've been fuss-free, because obviously I've been growing both this year and they went in at the same time. And the broad beans have been a bit of a problem. You know, they're falling over a lot and they got by the cold when we had that real cold snap. These guys were absolutely fine. So I'll be really, really interested to see how they go. I'm going to eat some fresh, some dried, and I will report back. So that's the patch that we are leaving just down the centre, and we've just chopped everything up and left it on the surface. Next thing on my list today is sowing some parsnips, which I'm pretty excited about because I should have got the parsnips in months ago, like February, but I didn't. And so they're going in today. I'm doing 2 varieties, white gem, which is generally later. I mean, this is about the right time for white gem. But hollow crown, basically February would have been my time, but never mind, I'm doing them now. So parsnips take a really long time to germinate, and if you're sowing them in February, they can take like 45 days to germinate, which is unbelievable. But I'm hoping that by sowing them later, I'm not going to miss a massive amount of time because the soil's so much warmer, they're just going to germinate way faster. So I'm not going to end up as out of whack as I thought I was. Parsnips are notorious for really poor germination, so you tend to sow 3, sometimes 4 per spacing. Normally when I'm direct sowing, I do kind of sprinkle method where they just kind of go all the way across the bed, and then you pull out the ones between to space them up a bit, but I don't do that with parsnips. I just sow little clumps of them at about the right spacing. And then when they germinate, I just choose the strongest one and nip them out. Normally I have a bit of a hard time with thinning, but with parsnips not so much, because I just know that they don't work. You can't transplant them and you don't even want to pull out the extras. You just want to nip them off at the base, because if you pull them out, you're going to be disturbing the root of the parsnip you're leaving, and then you're still going to get a dodgy parsnip. So you just nip them off and don't think about it. Oi! Right, it is Friday night. I've just got back from work and there is a wonderful delivery waiting for me. Look at these beauties. This is my 9-star perennial broccoli that I have been after for absolutely ages, and I got off a bloke called Scott on Instagram, and I'm thrilled. Basically, I'm going to pot these up rather than plant them straight in the ground, although they're really good looking plants. I mean, look at that. I could just put these straight in. But the reason I'm potting them up is because I haven't actually decided where they're going to go yet. And 9-star perennial broccoli is a perennial cauliflower, despite the name. And they survive for about 5 to 7 years. And I've got to make a decision about where I'm going to put them. And I haven't made that decision yet. So I'm potting them up for the time being. So this 9-star perennial broccoli produces one central cauliflower. And then after you pick that, it produces like a sprouting cauliflower florets around the outside every spring. So yeah, I've been after these for absolutely ages, so massive thanks to Scott, and I'm well happy. And this, chaps, is my rock and roll Friday night. I need a glass of wine. But there they are. I'm really pleased. I've got 6 of the beauties and I'm chuffed. Absolutely chuffed. They are such good looking plants too. What a joy. Good morning. It is a spectacular day. It's really humid. It's proper sweaty because we've had rain all day yesterday and all night. And now it's blue skies, the sun's out. It's about 18 degrees, but it's about like 90% humidity. So it's dead sweaty, but it's gorgeous. This morning was the first morning that I got up. The temperature was the same outside the house as it was inside, and I sat in the garden with my cup of tea and my piece of toast, and I feel elation, like properly elated. It's magnificent. Anyway, we're up here. It's about 9:30 in the morning, and we got a lot to do. I think it's going to be rainy a lot for the rest of the week, so we're going to try and pack in as much as we can today. One of the main things we've got to do is try and clear out a bit of space in the polytunnel because our tomatoes are ready to go out, basically. They're looking desperate. So that's what I'm going to do. A lot of the stuff across the back piece, you know, it's in like a U shape, the back stretch, a lot of that can be cleared. Most of it is cress that's gone to, or mustard cress that's gone to seed. And there's a bit of Iranian cress that's gone to seed. So I'm just going to whip all of that out and then take off it what we can rescue and give the rest to the girls. We also have some chard in there which needs to be taken out. There's a lot of bolted lettuce. There's the odd spring onion, which I don't really know where they came from because all the rest of them died, and then there's just like, it looked like all of them had just rotted off, and then all of a sudden they're all coming up. So I've got some spring onions to pick, and yeah, basically I'm just going to enjoy the day because I think we've got not great weather coming up, but the temperatures have absolutely
rocketed. Like nighttime temperatures at the moment are about 8 this week, and up until now it's been like 1. So we're on. Now is the perfect seed sowing time. The only problem with it is that it's also going to be like slugtopia weather. They're going to be so happy. Or they haven't really bothered us at all so far this year because it's just been so cold and so dry. But now it's going to be warm and wet. So I've got what I asked for, but the slugs also are going to be having an absolute party. So we're going to be a bit careful about what we put out. We do have some celeriac to go in, which is going to go in the bed next to the parsnips that I sowed what, 2 days ago, and masses of asparagus to pick. Basically tons of stuff, and I'm going to go out there and enjoy it.
Oh, it is just wonderful out here. It's like I can feel how happy the plants are. Like everything just looks really green and lush, and oh, it's wonderful. Look, the broad beans are coming along, looking marvellous. It's not going to be long until we're eating them. Oh, it's just a wonderful feeling. I've really got to sort these out. This is why I'm going to be growing the pumpkins up this year. Not like this, it needs sorting out, but that's another job on my list. But this is where I'm going first. So it's this back section. I've got some absolute monster Ford Hook giant chard in here. A bit of chicory. All of this really does need to come out, but I'm loath to take that out because it's just a spectacular beast. But up this end, they're kind of starting to bolt. So I'm going to take all of these ones out of this corner, and then that spinach is going to come out. That's fine. And in this corner, we've got some lamb's lettuce and some Iranian cress and all that kind of stuff that needs to come out. This beautiful Aquilegia just decided to pop into the poly. This is the Lucullus, still looking good. I'm going to leave that where it is. Not going to bother with that, although it is bolting as well. But that's going to be fine. We'll eat that in the next couple of weeks. No drama. Okay, so action. I'm going to whip all of this stuff out and then top up the compost on that back end. Yup.
That's the last of that parsnip.
Very nice.
Yes, that is going to its flower.
Okay, whew, clearance done. It is blooming warm in that polytunnel, I can tell you. When I opened the door, it was 44.4 degrees. Warm. Obviously, it's not that hot now. Obviously, I've opened the window and the door and stuff, but it still feels pretty hot.
While I cool off, I'm going to plant out some celeriac. They're going to go in this bed next to the parsnips. So last year I grew the parsnips, celery and celeriac in the same bed, and it worked out really well because they're all in there for quite a long time. So these are my little celeriac seedlings. And God, I've got so much to plant out. I've got to get on that allium bed, actually. I've got so many leeks and spring onions that need to go out. Jeez. Right, better get on it. And these lettuces, I'm going to get these lettuces out today because they're really suffering, so I need to get those ones out. Back to the celeriac. I'm going to give them quite a lot of space, actually, because last year I planted them quite close together, and although we had really quite a good crop, with celeriac, because of the way it's kind of structured, it's like plaited, you have to cut quite a lot of the outside off, and so whereas normally I'm not that fussed about getting massive beetroot or anything like that, because they're just the same, they're just smaller and sweeter. With the celeriac, I prefer to get bigger ones because they're just that bit more useful. So I'm going to give these a bit of space and hope they bulk up nicely. Grow, my beauties, grow! They look quite good in there, actually. They look really healthy. Pretty pleased with that. Next up, the lettuce. Got 5 different varieties in here. I am trying to remember what they are. I know there's a Lola Rossa. My labels are facing the wrong way, so I can't tell you. There we go. I've got Lola Rossa, Mazur, Valmain. And then 2 red ones, which one of them is a massive hearting red one, and the other one I can't remember. And I'm not very good at reading and walking at the same time, apparently. But I'm going to plonk them in here with my peas. Hang on, just before we get into the lettuces, just have a look at this. Look how much these have grown. They're absolutely huge. These are red pak choi, just called red choi, that's the variety name. Aren't they gorgeous? Right, we are about to head home for lunch. my main job I want to do this afternoon is get some tomatoes in the polytunnel, but I need some string to do that, and I've completely run out. So I'm going to take these magnificent spears of asparagus home and get them on the griddle. I'm going to pick some rocket to go with them. When we were clearing this bed of the field beans, I found a couple of really lush looking rocket plants underneath, self-seeded. So I'm going to take them. I find it easier when you're doing rocket is just to take the whole clump and then the whole lot regrows fresh again, rather than kind of trying to pick off leaves and then it flowers and then you get thick stalks. So after lunch, we're going to head straight over to the garden centre, grab some string, and then we'll be back here this afternoon with the tomatoes. Woo! And if you're wondering what I did with the asparagus and the rocket, I just char grilled the asparagus and had the rocket with bacon bits and toasted almonds with balsamic vinegar, load of olive oil, and we ate the whole lot with masses of fresh bread, and it was delicious. Some replacement geraniums. So we got the string. We may have also picked up a couple of other things. So we haven't bought all this stuff. We've got all the tomatoes from home. I picked up 2 osteospermums because my 2 died last year in the frost. I got this beautiful kale, and the rest of this was ours already, I promise. But we did get the string, which was the thing we went for. Well, it's still really warm, but the clouds are coming over. Ooh. And as the wind has picked up, but it's still really lovely temperature. So I've topped up the soil in here, let me show you, and dumped all my tomatoes in here. So we have got 11 plants, and I'm going to fit them across this back row. Got a couple of these really tall ones, which are the ones my sister grew. And this is something else I found at the garden centre, which I was really pleased about, which is the sun gold. It's an F1, and I always think it's a waste to buy a whole packet of seed because I only want the one. And also you can't save your own because it's F1. So I was really pleased to find that. And my first task is to take off the labels from last year's tomatoes, which I've left up all winter. So they're going to come down. This one says, I don't know why this one says lettuce. Oh no, sorry, I just used the other side. Japanese black. I'll reuse some of these labels for what we've got. So I've cut all of those off and I've just looped string over that wire and I'm just tying them on at the top. I've kind of worked out I can fit 11 across the back, like I said, so which is one more than I had last year. I felt like I had a bit of extra space. So if you've been watching the vlog from like this time last year, you'll know how I tie my tomatoes up. So I tie the string at the top, and these are really long so that they can pull underneath the plant when I plant them into the compost underneath. So they're trailing on the ground, and then I'm just going to work out what order I'm going to put these in, because I've got a mixture of beefsteak and cherry and cooking tomatoes, all sorts. So I want to get a good mix across the back. So most of these are these ones which I grew myself, which are really quite short and stocky, and that's how you want them to be when you're planting them with this method, because you want them to be below the height that they're going to need to be tied in, because you need their roots to anchor in the string first. So with these guys, they're quite short, quite stocky. I'll pull the string in the bottom of the pot, plant them directly on top of that string, keeping it quite taut, and then not tie them in, not do anything, and let their roots really establish around that string, which will then hold it in. And then as they start to grow, I can then tie them in and that string will be kept taut. It's much, much more difficult if you're trying to plant really tall, lanky plants to do it this way. For example, these two that were planted really, really early in the year by my sister, like way earlier than mine, and I haven't been able to get them in. They're quite tall, especially this one. And so I'm going to just have to leave it kind of resting there until its roots have established enough for me to be able to tie it in.
To say I'm happy would be a whopping understatement. We are away, chaps. We are off. The tomatoes are in the polytunnel. So exciting. Only other thing I've got to get in here today. Sorry, this is a really terrible angle. Is that better? A little bit. I've got 2 aubergines to put in. God, what a hair. It's really sweaty in here. So I'm going to get 2 aubergines in. They're quite big ones, so I'm going to put them on the corners so they've got loads of space. And then all of this front section, so I've tied string for all the areas which are above the chard and stuff that we haven't taken out yet. And sorry, there's an aeroplane going over. I'm really sorry. I hope that's not too irritating to listen to. Oh yeah, I've tied string to all the way across the top. I'll show you when I turn the camera around. Which is where all the rest of the tomatoes are going to go, and I've kind of calculated space wise, I've got space for 9 more, which is exciting. I've got 4 more varieties at home that I haven't got in here, and then I've got to do some doubles. I've got to do doubles of Black Russian and Japanese Black Truffelli, because they are just to die for, and we cook with them, so we need like loads of them, and they make the most amazing passata. So I'm going to get them in. I'm going to get these aubergines in now, and then really it's just a case of peppers, and I've got to go through all the peppers because I've got masses of duplicates and loads to give away as well. So I'm just going to kind of go through them this week and get them in here next week, and it's all go. It's amazing. It is amazing.
Both of the aubergines I'm putting in today are from my sister. They are looking spectacular. Look at this one, vicious. This is Czech E. I don't know what the variety is exactly, but it's Czech one. And I really should take that flower off, but it's just so beautiful. I'm planting it really close to the edge here because the tomatoes are going to fill out at the back and the aubergine is going to be able to spill over the front. So I'm planting them quite close in. And this one is pot black. Lovely.
Well, it is just come out to 5:30 and we've been here a long time today, and it's just wonderful. It's just really amazing. That bit of rain, it's warm. I mean, I haven't had a coat on all day and it's just bliss. It is just bliss. And everything, you're a bit wobbly, sorry, I'm resting you on the arch because my gimbal has given up the ghost for the day. Sorry about the wobbles, but it's just bliss. And now you've got a bit of wind, and now you've got the wind. Right, this is an awkward shot. The wind is blowing. Oh dear, can you still hear me? This is an awkward shot and the wind is blowing. I'm just going to do a bit of a whiz round and show you what else I've been doing that I haven't recorded because I couldn't record everything. Yeah.
I've tied in those beans. I mean, now it's really windy and they were starting to flop. They were kind of holding each other up before when there was a whole block of them, but now these are on their own. I've just put a bit of string around them. I have put in the Tuscan kale that I got at the garden centre this morning. Looking beautiful. I'm very pleased with them, actually. Very pleased. What else have I done? Oh, I put in the little osteo, the purple one. So I had 2 osteos on either side of the door last year, but neither of them survived in the cold. It was just too cold for them. So I've replaced one. I put the hyssop on the other side where the old one was, but this one is here. Absolutely majestic colour. It's just glowing. I really like osteospermums. I think they're really good value flower. They just flower and flower and flower if you put them in the sunny spot. And they're right next to my bright orange calendula. So this is going to be some serious colour clash. Yeah, girly. I've also sown some wildflower seeds, which is the toadflax mix, in this back piece around the back of the pond. The reason it's got all of this kind of construction on it is to try and keep the chickens out. It's not working, but we're trying. I haven't done this side yet. This side's also going to have the same wildflower mix in it, which is going to be... So this is where it was last year, and it was just heaven. And I've got to finish off the edge of this bed because it just kind of peters out. So, bit of work to do on that side. But yeah, what a day. What a day. So the lettuces are in. What I was going to say about the lettuces earlier is don't worry, lettuces always look terrible when you first put them in, but they do recover. They do. And the other osteo has just gone in a pot next to the shed. Look at that colour. Look at that colour. And it's covered in buds, which is exciting. Yeah, and oh, how lovely is this? A load of foxgloves have appeared, which have been given to us by a woman who's just up the way. It's exciting. Mum's still doing a bit of weeding, but I think we're going to go home now, Mum. She can't hear me. What a day. What a week. What a week. The tomatoes are in, which is unbelievably exciting. I'm just going to say this right now. I know I do say this fairly often. I'm not going to go on and on and on in this end bit because this is a really, really long video this week. So apologies, I'm going to be quick as. I just wanted to say that I didn't go through any of the varieties in the tomatoes because I hadn't quite worked out what I was doing and what was what. And I'm going to make my labels for them next week. So I will talk about all the different varieties that I'm growing next week, along with the peppers and the chilies, because some of those are ready to go in as well. I've got about 7 or 8 different varieties of pepper to go in, so I'll do a bit of a talk about all the different varieties when I'm doing that next week. Basically, it's just been a wonderful week. It was really nice to be able to kind of come back from work and go up to the plot. So I had quite a few evenings that I was able to get up there, and I had an afternoon off in the middle of the week, so I was up there then. And basically it's just been marvellous, and it's really starting to feel like things are cracking on now. I can't tell you how good it was to get those tomatoes in there. It's like that's a symbol that we're properly hitting the big time. That we're hitting the main part of the year when everything's just going to go whoosh, and you can feel it in the air, like having the rain over the last couple of days. Rain, cloud, sun, cloud, rain,
cloud, sun, cloud, rain, cloud, sun. Like outside it's just going mental, and that's like the perfect weather for the plants. So that's really exciting. It's also phenomenal seed sowing weather. So I'm gonna get my beans in next week, I think, which is quite exciting. The video that I put out last Saturday, I wanted to say a massive thank you because I've had some really lovely feedback from that video. It was a bit of a weird one. It was kind of like the advice that I would give new growers, new allotmenters. And I wasn't quite sure if it was a bit weird or not, because there wasn't much practical advice in there. So I didn't know how that was going to go, but I had a really lovely response from you all, so thank you very much for that. What I was supposed to be doing on that Saturday was building a cage for my strawberries, which I've still got to do. I couldn't do it on the Saturday because it was absolutely torrential rain. So I couldn't do it on the Saturday, but it's still in the pipeline. I've got all the wood all together and everything, and I'm going to put that together next week. So I'm not sure if it's going to be in part of the vlog or it's going to be a whole nother video. I've got quite a lot of work to do around that, so I might do a video just about building the strawberry cage, but then include it in the vlog because I've got to dig out a rhubarb, move some strawberries, you know, there's a bit of faff involved, so probably both, to be honest. I think we've got a week of this same sort of weather where it's hot and wet and sort of a bit of everything, which is basically like the April weather we should have had in April, but we're getting it in May, and it's better late than never, so I'm pretty happy about that. Another thing I wanted to mention was that on Sunday, that beautiful Sunday, spent all day on the allotment, had an amazing day, first proper day like that a year, happened to be Gardening Day UK, so that was lovely. And the tradition is to make a flower garland and take a photograph of yourself with a flowery headdress on. I couldn't bring myself to pick any of the flowers, so I went with the most appropriate vegetable I could think of, which was chard. I thought it was quite fitting. I'm just going to add it to my collection of hats. Okay, chaps, I'm going to just leave it at that because otherwise I'm just going to start going, and then it's just going to be another like 15 minutes and the vlog's going to end up being an hour long. Nobody needs that. So I'm going to say massive cheers. Thank you to everybody for watching. I hope you all had a fantastic gardening day. I had so much fun that day, I can't tell you. Cheers, chaps.